All right, hello and welcome to another Expert Inside interview. My name is John Goldin from Sales Pop, online sales magazine and Pipeliner CRM, joining you as usual from a sunny San Diego. And today I'm delighted to welcome from just up the road across the border in Arizona, Phoenix, Arizona, Arvil Craig. How you doing, Arvil?
I'm doing wonderful, John. How are you?
Yeah, and you're coming into the great time of year now in
Exactly. Now is the time to enjoy life.
yeah. Yeah, back in the day, we used to do a lot of sales kickoff meetings in Arizona in January. It was always great, beautiful weather
Mhm.
during the day, but deceptively cold at night.
That is true. That's one thing that's unique compared to California.
Yeah, and I learned that the hard way.
That's it.
All right, and Arville is a seasoned business professional, over 20 years experience in dynamic landscape of social, digital, and internet marketing. You recognized the potential of chatbots and conversational design in 2017, and you've been a leading voice on how to integrate natural language processing into systems into sales marketing and support operations. So this is what we're going to talk about today in your capacity as AI evangelist, speaker, and trusted advisor. Arvel, what would you just give me what you would say is the state of play of AI today, particularly in the sales field? Like where are we at right now in its evolution? Do you think?
Mm, Good question. I mean, it depends on who you talk to. As we know, with ChatGPT and all the other large language models, AI is on the top of everyone's tongue. I've talked to a lot of people recently who are reinvestigating automation for business, a lot of reinvestigation into LinkedIn automations, and even email, some of these cold email. So those are the two biggest things that business owners are doing to cold outreach as far as what they're using. Um, there's voice AI and voice solutions for taking calls and for making outbound calls. I do some things with that as well. So, I mean, it's definitely it's still early, surprisingly,
Mhm.
because there's a lot of unknown things when it comes to regulations as far as the larger companies. But for the smaller companies, they're definitely running. I say LinkedIn is the most common strategy that's newish that people are using for AI. But then you've got all kind of tools that are scraping and building lists and doing email SDRs and things like that
Mhm.
are coming as well. And all the agents, there's
Yeah.
people call it agents, but there's a lot of other stuff that are not yet there yet. But I assume in the next 12 months you'll find a lot more automated agents controlling computers and doing a little bit more sophisticated outreach.
Yeah, let's talk just a little bit about agents because I mean agents obviously have become a big topic in Salesforce. What was it? They changed Dreamforce to Agent
Yeah.
Force and all of that. And I think people are still a lot of people are still kind of confused as to what the agent is, and they're still thinking of them as maybe chatbots when they're clearly not. So can you just explain to people a little bit about AI agents and the potential they have?
Yeah, I mean, today, which is kind of, fourth quarter 2024, when people say agents, most people are talking about automation.
Hmm.
They're talking about the intelligence and the conversational side of AI, plus automating and connecting and tying into tools you have. And possibly, with Salesforce or HubSpot, you also have the brain, you have the knowledge, not just the AI
Hmm.
scraped internet brain, but actually the company data brain that makes the content more aligned with the business. But when you're talking to an AI person, when you talk to like nerds and people like me, when agents, that's not just automation. There's actually which is coming, which is not there
Yeah.
yet, is when AI can actually click buttons on computers, taking over your Chrome browser, taking over and really be more active when you can simply have a real like invisible assistant clicking stuff and controlling your computer, which word on the street is that's the next version of OpenAI's models, maybe late this December. So that's kind of the next, that's the real thing that's really
Yeah.
coming. It's on the edge.
Yeah, and the difference obviously with chatbots and stuff is with agents they're learning, they're developing. You can have them so that they're really, and they can be autonomous.
Correct, correct, definitely.
Yeah,
Lots of machine learning, lots of automation, lots of integration, and all the tools and platforms that you do every day.
Mhm. And one thing you mentioned there about companies, being excited to use their internal data, and I think that's the next piece coming. But I don't think a lot of companies are actually prepared for it because, let's face it, how many companies have you dealt with that have had perfectly clean data?
Oh, exactly. No.
And I think that's the thing that's going to really kind of surprise people is when they hear it's great, we can bring in AI and we can, use it and we can build agents and we can use it with our own internal data. And you go, yeah, but what kind of results are you going to get if your data is not clean?
Hmm. Right. But to me, again, the beautiful thing with AI today is that it is user friendly.
Mhm.
It may not be perfect, but there's just different levels of using it where you get exponentially better results. So if you're just using like a Chat GPT, a Gemini, a Claude, you'll find okay results.
Mhm.
Even if you put small pieces of your own data with that, you've got a lot better results. It's so different. And then it's making Salesforce and HubSpot, when you use those legacy platforms that know you, even if it's not clean, to me, the results is still exponentially better than the other layers. So again, it may not be perfect, but it's definitely going to give you some advantages.
Yeah, yeah. That's why we actually we put a duplicate checker into Pipeliner now, so to help our customers clean their data up and
Nice.
so that they can use all our AI tools with maximum effectiveness. So when you've been working with businesses and that, what are some of the interesting things that you see people are using AI for now, particularly in sales and marketing?
Again, just two things: what's interesting, or what's
Mm.
interesting that people are using.
Well,
Because
both.
surprisingly, the adoption, again, me being kind of on a leading edge,
Sure.
kind of playing around with it. I do a lot of things, and there used to be a disconnect between what I'm doing with the average person. Surprisingly, the average company is doing a way lot less than you could imagine. So for anybody who's listening who thinks they're behind, as of right now, you're still ahead of the game if you are using it. Number one,
Yep.
but number two, companies, everybody uses it individually. Again, there's not many companies that use it together
Yeah.
cohesively as a strategy with like direction and guidelines and things like that. So again, there's definitely a lot of room to grow. Again, when you get into what is interesting, that's new. Again, I'm in a couple AI communities. So again,
Yeah.
with all the nerds that are using it like me, it's very interesting the things that you can do is missing cleaning up data, things like clay.com that businesses are using to grab massive amount of data. It's how we can integrate with 5, 10, 20, 30 different enrichment tools and just there's a lot of intelligence and intent data that's happening. There's a lot more, again, because of AI can not just scrape data, but it can learn. So there's all this data that we have, but it's a manual process trying to figure out how do we use it. So AI that is grabbing all types of, again, just it's bringing together many disparate pieces together and able to bring some intelligence out of something that only if you had some type of software engineers or data scientists could figure it out. That's
Mhm.
the kind of thing that, again, from a business standpoint, that's really interesting. The things that you can learn from your data if you allow AI, if you give it access to it.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I think, and you touched on something there actually, which I think was interesting about most companies today. And I think you're right. I think a lot of people who think that they're well behind the curve. I mean, I think if you can spell AI, you're probably up with a lot of other people. But um, I think the thing you mentioned, I think, which is really interesting, is yeah, I would agree. I think in most organizations, AI is being used by individuals. Maybe one department, maybe marketing is using some tools. Probably not even all of them. Each individuals are using different ones. Maybe some salespeople are using some, whatever. But I think you're right. I think there's very few companies like have an AI strategy or even
Mhm.
have what we once would have had with any other kind of technological advance. You would have had, it would have been rolled out. There would have been some strategy, probably IT, all of this kind of thing. This has been a bit of a wild west, hasn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, it's definitely a lot different because it's happening so fast. There's so many different directions. Again, the definitions, what people call an agent varies. Even the largest companies, the foundation model companies, they use different definitions. The fact that AI has been around for 50 years, but now we're talking about it as
Yeah.
if it's new. The language and what we're calling AI, I always say it's not just chat GPT. It's not just a large language model. there's so many different ways to look at it. So we definitely need to get some alignment with the language and the literacy. We need to have the guardrails and the policies. And as you mentioned, you need a strategy where
Mhm.
everybody can work together. And also, I think a lot of the AI, as you're in sales and marketing has some of the lowest hanging fruit use cases to get benefit from it. But like you said, in the past, it was more of an IT situation. It was difficult to get
Mhm.
access to certain types of technology. So it's definitely very different than tech in the past.
Yeah, and the other thing I think which I found remarkable about this, and this is my own behavior as well, is I've never had a situation where I would use a tool, I find a tool and think, wow, this is really cool. And 2 weeks later, I'm swapping it for one that's slightly cooler. And then 2 weeks later for one that's even cooler than that one. I mean, the amount of everybody's one upping each other with every time they
Mhm.
release something. And I think that's going to be that's going to be quite a challenge for organizations, is if they do want to set guidelines and standardize maybe on certain tools and everything. It's going to be, which tools do you choose, because they iterate so quickly.
Right, right. Again, and that's why it's important to have strategy and guidance. Because again, trying to keep up with what's new is a losing battle.
Yeah.
And also trying to learn. But I always tell people you need to like pick one or two, as far as the large language models, pick one and just keep using it. It's, again, people just don't use it. It gets a lot of change management or change behavior that has to change. So yeah, I mean, you don't have to have the best to get the benefits. That's
Yeah.
one of the biggest things. You don't, as long as you use it consistently and you learn and you apply it personally. Um, because again, so many people are trying to get AI to do things. Like, wait a minute, people come to me, hey, I want an AI to do this or do that. Like, wait a minute, you need a CRM.
Yeah.
That's not AI. Oh, I
Yeah.
want AI to kind of like find me some leads and find me customers. Like, no, you just need a list. You need
Yeah.
you need a data provider. You don't need AI. So there's this hype that it can do any and everything. And people who are not subject matter experts, not domain experts, there's this false assumption they can do anything. Like, no, just use Photoshop, just use
Yeah,
Canva,
exactly.
just use PowerPoint. You don't need, and there's a lot of, here you go, confusion and how to get the best benefit. But I'm all about helping people use AI where it's beneficial. Don't use it where it's not, but also use the right AI, because again,
Yeah.
not everybody needs to chat with Chat GPT. You can
Yeah.
find the AI that's in your CRM, for example.
Yeah, and you made it, and everybody thinks they're a content producer now because they can just say, "AI, write me this, write me that." But now they have to take the output from AI and run it through a humanizer, so that AI doesn't figure out, that the Google doesn't figure out that it's AI and everything. And there's a lot of things at the end of the day where you'd be like, well, wouldn't it have been better if you just wrote the thing yourself in the first place, after going through all these steps to try and shortcut it? Doesn't sound like much of a shortcut at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So I think there are these things that people need to take into account. And I think the other part too, like you said, is as these get more sophisticated, can do more and all that, there's a lot of these tasks and that can be taken away. And I think people's biggest fear is, oh, am I going to be replaced? But
Mm,
I think when it comes to sales and marketing, in many ways, I believe, and I'd love to get your opinion on this, that the best are going to rise to the top, because once you take away the busy work, once you take away the distracting work, once you take away the rote and routine, or the work that frankly AI does better than a human, we start to elevate salespeople to be able to do what they do best, and that's the human, the relationship building. And I think in many ways it's going to put more pressure on salespeople to be better at
mm.
real sales.
No, I love that. I definitely see that 100%, that AI is going to do more of the busy work. If you're just trying to do the least or the minimum amount of work, then that's on you. You definitely, but you have to evolve. You have to not be afraid of technology. I always say be positive and proactive.
Mhm.
Use it, get involved with it. But again, it also deals with the company.
Yep.
There's different companies. You need to understand your organization and their values and their leadership and where things are going. You need to find out what the company is doing, because some companies do will value the bottom line over the people, or just you need to understand that. So I tell people with AI, look at the AI founders budgeting, because every AI isn't going to last. So you need
Mhm.
to know how to vet AI and see whether or not it's something I want to really commit to long term. Likewise, you need to vet your company and understand what they're doing, because some companies will be trying to cut You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Everything. So it's on you to kind of do that due diligence, and then you have to, regardless, you're going to have to evolve. You're going to have to grow and delegate more, collaborate more with the AI.
Yeah, and I just want to triple underline that point that you just made now it's incumbent upon us to upskill ourselves for the future, not to
Hmm.
kind of sit here and go, oh, well, let's try and block this. So you go, yeah, it's coming and it's coming so fast that it's your head spinning. The best
Hmm.
thing you can do is look at, okay, what can I do to upskill myself, to improve what I do, to make myself indispensable alongside AI rather than trying to compete.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So yeah, like I said, your personal brand, your
Yeah.
values. Again, you've got to figure out. And again, I remember putting content out 2 years ago about the need for human touch,
Yeah.
human interaction. Like I do live speaking, so I'm like, I know I need to refine my speaking skills when I'm physically on stages, places, because I think there's going to be more value for that. There's going to be value for this, how you can be more human, and regardless of, there's gonna always be groups that's going to need what you have if you are diligent to figure out. The world is big. There's
Yeah.
billions of people, not millions, billions. So even if you can't find opportunity through the way you've been traditionally doing business, sales, value is a human to human thing, and you can find the humans who need what you
Mhm.
have. Even if a certain company, a certain customer journey or flow may be more tech heavy, but again, you have to have that perspective that I can find my people. I will find a way to get through whatever disruption, because it will be. I say AI is good, bad, ugly, and unknown.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's going to make us money. It's bad. It's going to take some jobs. It's ugly. The ugliness of humanity that might use it for their
Sure.
ugly purposes is a reality. But the unknown is when the AI is smarter than us. We don't know. But until we get there, let's just get out and again be proactive and positive.
Yeah. And one interesting thing that I often think about, Arvel, is as this develops, do you think we have a right to know when we're dealing with AI and agents as opposed to humans, or do you think that as things go on, and as long as we're getting the service that we want, we're not really going to care one way or the other? Because that's always the thing. Is like, or traditionally we have found that technology has unfortunately been used by a lot of companies to try and keep the consumer, the customer, whatever, at an arm's length, make
Mm.
it hard for you to interact with humans. And I think that's a fear that some people have. But however, I don't know, maybe if agents, maybe whatever, are so good that you won't care. But do you think there's a like a an ethical issue or anything about letting people know what they're dealing with?
Oh, that's a great question. So definitely, yes. The By default, you want to be transparent and you want to let people know that they're dealing with AI. Do people care if I go to an ATM? I know it's technology. If I'm using an app, like I love my app, right? My Starbucks app, whatever. I use apps. It's no different.
Mhm.
So, and then it's technology. So by default, you want to be transparent. But will people care? Most likely, more and more and more, they won't. If you can provide the value as fast as possible. That's when I used to build chatbots. That was an ethical situation back in 2018, 2019.
Mhm.
How do I build an automation for a sales or marketing funnel? But the goal was always provide the value as soon as possible. So it's all about the value, but definitely disclose that it's AI, that it's automation, that it's technology. I say sometimes when I'm programming bots now, whether it's for voice or call centers, this is blah 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 powered by AI. And
Right.
again, and there are FTC or TCPA regulations that do say you need to disclose, but there's different ways of doing it. Again, bring the value first as soon as possible, and don't trick, and just bring value quickly, and everybody should be okay.
Yeah, no, I'm 100% agree with you. I think being transparent, and if you deliver what the person wants, then they're not going to care. But if you don't and you try to fool them, that's a double negative against you.
Fool them and force them. Either
Yeah,
one is going to be a double negative.
exactly. And just finally, Arva, what do you see in the future that you're most excited about?
Great question. Again, as far as in my world,
Yeah.
2025, I think the education and the things that I do is going to be more needed and necessary. So I'm definitely excited about that. Again, the agents, again, I've always had a small team. whether I was at a company and I just, I don't like doing certain things. And
Mhm.
I've always leveraged technology to do the things that I didn't like. So as agents come on board and as they can click buttons, I'll probably have a separate laptop that's not my main computer, but I'm definitely excited to have some support, getting more support to do more things, to make more of an impact, to reach more people. I'm definitely excited about the potential of what's coming.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, listen, thanks very much, Avril. All of Arvel's information will be below this video. But before we go, tell people a little bit more about you and what you do.
No, sure. So yeah, I am Arvell Craig, AI evangelist. I work at vagents.com. It's a voice solution for calls, for transfers, for call centers, things like that. And I also do consulting and teaching where I wrote the AI strategy playbook and I help leaders, mainly sales and marketing leaders, use AI as a team and as individuals to help to cut costs and increase performance.
Fantastic. Well, I'd encourage you, if you're dipping your toe in the AI waters, or you're struggling with AI, or it's gone running wild in your organization, go contact Arvel, and he'll help you out. He'll help build a strategy for you.
Awesome. Thank
Um,
you, John.
yeah. So listen, thanks again for watching, listening. Thank you, Arvel, and see you all again very soon.